There is a paradox that has haunted humanity ever since the first man looked at the starry sky and questioned his place in the universe. The more you awaken to reality, the further you distance yourself from those who are still asleep. The more you see, the more lonely you become. And the question few dare to ask is this: why does personal enlightenment always seem to go hand in hand with social isolation? Arthur Schopenhauer, the 19th century German philosopher, not only answered this question, he made it central to his philosophy. And his answer is as brutal as it is liberating. Solitude is not a curse for those who awaken. It is a conscious choice. It is the price of lucidity in a world of illusions. Schopenhauer lived his philosophy. While his contemporaries lost themselves in social salons and the search for external validation, he chose deliberate seclusion. He lived alone with his dog, avoided social engagements, and dedicated himself to profound thought. Many called him a misanthrope. He considered himself a realist. His masterpiece, The World as Will and Representation, reveals an uncomfortable truth. Most people live in a state of perpetual unconsciousness, driven by a blind force he called will, an irrational impulse for survival, reproduction, and the satisfaction of desires that never cease. Society is built upon this collective will, a theater of masks where everyone plays a role but few question the script. And what happens when someone wakes up from this collective dream? When someone sees through the smokescreen of social conventions, artificial desires, and empty hierarchies? That person becomes incompatible with the system, not out of arrogance, but out of intellectual honesty. Throughout this video, we will delve into the depths of Schopenhauer's philosophy to understand why spiritually awakened people not only accept solitude, but actively choose it. We will not romanticize isolation or demonize society. We will do something more valuable. We will understand the nature of awakening and why it inevitably separates us from the crowd. You will learn the 7 fundamental laws that explain why solitude is the natural habitat of awakened consciousness. And more importantly, you will understand if you are ready to make that choice. Because once you see, you can no longer feign blindness. Prepare yourself, for Schopenhauer offers no comfort. He offers truth. Law 1. The collective rejects individual conscience. The more self-aware you become, the further you distance yourself from the herd, not out of contempt, but out of fundamental incompatibility. Schopenhauer identified that humanity is governed by a primordial force he called will, a blind, insatiable energy that drives all living beings to exist, desire, and suffer. Human society is a manifestation of this collective will. Social structures, norms, expectations, all designed to perpetuate the species and keep the system functioning. The problem arises when an individual awakens from this collective hypnosis. When you begin to question the imposed values, when you realize that success, status, and social acceptance are empty constructs, you automatically place yourself outside the system. The collective will identifies you as an anomaly, a virus in the program, and the system reacts: rejection, isolation, misunderstanding. In ancient Greece, Diogenes of Sinope was one of the earliest historical examples of this incompatibility. He was a cynic philosopher who rejected all social conventions. He lived in a barrel on the streets of Athens, without possessions, without worldly ambitions. When Alexander the Great, the most powerful man in the world, came to him and offered him any wish, Diogenes simply replied, "Get out of my light." This story is not about arrogance. It is about a man who had awakened to the futility of social hierarchies. Alexander had armies, cities, empires. Diogenes had clarity. And this clarity made him incompatible with Athenian society. He was ridiculed, expelled from social circles, considered mad. But he had made a choice. He preferred solitary truth to collective illusion. Today, this dynamic manifests itself in a more subtle but equally powerful way. When you stop chasing validation on social media, when you question the need to work 80 hours a week to impress people you don't respect, when you stop participating in superficial conversations and gossip, you become strange. Your friends start to distance themselves. Your family members say, "You've changed." Co-workers find you difficult. The truth is, you haven't changed for the worse. You've simply woken up. And awakened people disturb those who are still asleep because their mere existence calls into question the validity of the collective dream. Accept that you will be misunderstood. Schopenhauer teaches that solitude is not about hating others, but about loving the truth. Don't try to convince anyone of your awakening. Simply live according to your conscience and allow the right people, those who have also awakened, to find you naturally.
Law 2. Suffering is amplified in the crowd. Loneliness diminishes suffering. Unsuitable company multiplies it exponentially. For Schopenhauer, suffering is the natural condition of existence. The will impels us to constantly desire, but each satisfied desire is quickly replaced by another. This endless cycle of desire, satisfaction, new desire is the essence of human suffering. We cannot escape it completely, but we can minimize it. And here's the revelation. Being surrounded by people who don't share your frequency of consciousness not only maintains suffering, it amplifies it. Every superficial conversation is a betrayal of your authenticity. Every empty social engagement is a detour from your inner journey. Every hour spent with unconscious people is an hour stolen from your development. In the court of Frederick II of Prussia lived a young philosopher named Voltaire. Initially seduced by the glamour of courtly life, he quickly discovered that he was surrounded by intrigue, deceit, and empty power games. Despite the wealth and prestige, Voltaire felt his spirit wither. The conversations were superficial, the relationships were transactional, the atmosphere was toxic. He made a radical decision. He left the court, renounced his privileges, and retired to his estate in Ferney on the Swiss border. There, in his chosen solitude, he produced some of the most important works of the Enlightenment. His letters reveal a man who traded noise for clarity, company for creation, entertainment for thought.
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
How many times have you left a social gathering feeling emptier than when you arrived? How many conversations have you had that drained your energy instead of nourishing it? How many relationships do you maintain out of obligation, not genuine connection? Schopenhauer reminds us that there is no neutrality in human interactions. Every person you allow into your life either raises your consciousness or lowers it. And if you are surrounded by people who live on the surface, you will inevitably be pulled down. Conduct a ruthless audit of your relationships. Ask yourself, does this person make me think more deeply? Does this relationship inspire me to evolve? If the answer is no, compassion is letting go. It's not cruelty, it's spiritual self-preservation. Seek quality, not quantity. One conscious friend is worth more than 100 superficial acquaintances.
Law 3. Solitude is the laboratory of authenticity. Only in solitude do you discover who you truly are, free from the masks that society demands. Society functions through roles. You are a son, a father, an employee, a citizen, a collection of external expectations. Schopenhauer argues that we rarely have the opportunity to find our essential self because we are constantly performing for an audience. Solitude removes that audience, and without spectators, the masks fall. This is a terrifying process for most people. When you are alone with yourself, without distractions, without external validation, without the constant noise of society, you are forced to confront the fundamental question, who am I when no one is watching? Henry David Thoreau, influenced by Schopenhauer and Eastern philosophy, conducted one of the most famous experiments in deliberate solitude. For 2 years, he lived alone in a cabin on the shores of Walden Pond in Massachusetts. His intention was not to escape society, but to delve deeply into himself. In Walden, Thoreau describes how solitude freed him from the opinions of others, from social expectations, from the fear of judgment. He discovered that most of the needs that society imposes are artificial, that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in time and awareness, that the opinion of others is a tyrant that only rules if you allow it. We live in the age of hyperconnectivity and hyper-distraction. Your phone rings, notifications explode, messages demand immediate responses. You're always on, always available, always performing. And in this frenetic cycle, you lose touch with your essence. Deliberate solitude is revolutionary in the modern world. Turn off your phone for a day. Spend a weekend alone, without entertainment, without distractions. Just you and your thoughts. What you discover may be uncomfortable, thoughts you've been avoiding, truths you've been masking, but it will be authentic. Create rituals of sacred solitude. It could be a morning walk alone, an hour of uninterrupted journaling, or a monthly retreat when you completely disconnect. Use this time to ask yourself, what do I really want? Who would I be if no one knew me? What masks am I wearing? Law 4. The quality of the mind surpasses the quantity of company. A man with a rich mind prefers his own company to that of 1,000 fools. Schopenhauer makes a stark distinction between 2 types of people, those with a rich inner life and those who depend on external stimuli to fill their emptiness. The former find satisfaction in thought, reading, contemplation, and creation. The latter need constant entertainment, social validation, and noise to drown out their inner silence. If you have developed a rich mind through reading, reflection, profound experiences, then you are never truly alone. You carry within you an inner universe. But if your mind is empty, if you have never cultivated your own thoughts or genuine interests, then loneliness is unbearable. That is why superficial people fear being alone so much. During the Great Plague of London in 1665-1666, Isaac Newton was forced to return to his family farm, isolated from the academic world. In that period of forced solitude, he developed calculus, the theory of universal gravitation, and conducted fundamental experiments in optics. 2 years of seclusion yielded discoveries that changed the history of science. Newton did not suffer from isolation. He thrived. Why? Because his mind was a cosmos unto itself. He had problems to solve, experiments to conduct, theories to test. The absence of social distraction was not deprivation, it was freedom. Ask yourself, what happens when you're alone for more than a few hours? Do you feel anxious? Do you compulsively check your phone? Do you turn on the TV to fill the silence? This inability to be with yourself reveals a harsh truth. You may be living an empty life, filled with distractions to avoid confronting this emptiness. Awakened people cultivate such a rich inner life that solitude becomes a feast, not a deprivation. They have books to explore, ideas to develop, projects to create, questions to investigate. They are sufficient company for themselves. Invest in building a rich inner life. Read philosophy, history, classical literature. Learn a complex skill. Develop a creative project. Practice contemplative meditation. The denser your inner world, the less you will need external validation or entertainment. So far, we have established the fundamental truths that Schopenhauer bequeathed to us. You have understood why individual consciousness inevitably clashes with the collective will. You have seen how unsuitable company amplifies suffering instead of alleviating it. You have understood that solitude is the only space where the social mask can fall and reveal your authentic self. And you have learned that a rich mind transforms solitude from a curse into a blessing. These are the foundations. They are the bedrock upon which awakened people build a life of integrity and depth. But knowledge without application is dead philosophy. And Schopenhauer was not just a theorist, he was a practitioner. He developed specific strategies, profound psychological tactics, not only to accept solitude, but to transform it into his greatest advantage. The next three laws are more advanced, more subtle, and require courage to implement. They are not for those seeking social approval. They are for those seeking truth, no matter the cost. If you've made it this far, you've already demonstrated that you belong to that minority. Now let's delve deeper. Law 5. Strategic silence protects your evolution. Never reveal your awakening process to those who are still asleep. Silence is the armor of the wise. Schopenhauer observed a disturbing phenomenon. When you begin to evolve spiritually, the people around you often try to pull you back, not necessarily out of malice, but out of fear. Your evolution is a mirror reflecting their stagnation. Your search for truth questions the validity of the comfortable lies they have chosen to believe. Therefore, sharing your awakening journey prematurely is a strategic mistake. You become a target for subtle sabotage, ironic comments, jokes that devalue your quest, advice that tries to bring you back to conformity. The collective ego defends itself by expelling those who threaten its illusion. Giordano Bruno, a 16th century philosopher and cosmologist, made the fatal mistake of openly sharing his revolutionary ideas. He proposed that the universe was infinite, that worlds existed beyond Earth, and that religion was a construct of control. His truths were too advanced for his time. The Catholic Church burned him at the stake in 1600. Bruno died because he didn't understand the law of strategic silence. He cast pearls before swine, as Jesus would say. Compare that to Galileo, who survived because he was more cautious, more strategic in when and how he revealed his discoveries. When you begin to meditate, to question your lifestyle, to seek deeper meaning, keep it to yourself. Don't post about your spiritual journey on social media. Don't try to convert friends and family. Don't go around announcing that you've changed. Truly awakened people are discreet. They evolve quietly and let their results speak for themselves. When you truly change, others will eventually notice, but it will be through your presence, not your words. Practice the art of selective silence. When asked about your changes, be vague. "I'm just trying to live better" is a sufficient answer. Reserve your deepest truths for those rare individuals who demonstrate the capacity to understand them. Remember, the wise speak because they have something to say. The fool speaks because they need to say something. Law 6. Creative solitude versus reactive solitude. There is the solitude of the coward who flees, and the solitude of the warrior who chooses. Only the latter is transformative. Schopenhauer makes a critical distinction that many ignore. Not all loneliness is the same. There is reactive loneliness, caused by social rejection, fear of intimacy, inability to connect. And there is creative loneliness, a deliberate choice by someone who could have company but prefers the space for inner growth. The first is bitter and resentful. The person experiencing it feels victimized, rejected, misunderstood. They blame the world for their isolation. The second is liberating and powerful. The person who chooses it recognizes that they are exchanging quantity for quality, noise for clarity, superficial acceptance for profound authenticity. The Buddha, born Prince Siddhartha, had everything society offers: wealth, family, status, pleasure. He could have lived a socially integrated and comfortable life, but he made a radical choice. He left everything behind and entered the forest in search of enlightenment. His solitude was not an escape, it was a quest. He wasn't rejecting people, he was prioritizing truth. And after years of deliberate seclusion, deep meditation, and relentless questioning, he achieved awakening. When he returned, he was no longer the confused prince. He was the enlightened Buddha. Ask yourself honestly, is your loneliness a choice or a consequence? If you're alone because nobody wants you, that's reactive. Work through your wounds, develop social skills, heal your shadow self. But if you're alone because you consciously decided that you prefer depth to superficiality, that you value your time more than social approval, that's creative. Creative solitude has a different quality. There is no bitterness, only peace. There is no resentment, only clarity. You are not running away from people, you are choosing yourself. Test your solitude. Spend a period of genuine isolation and observe your feelings. If you feel anger, envy, resentment, your solitude is reactive and needs healing. If you feel peace, inspiration, creativity, your solitude is creative and should be protected. The difference lies not in the quantity of time alone, but in the quality of awareness during that time.
Law 7. The final paradox. Only in solitude do you find true connection. The deepest relationships are born not from need, but from fulfillment found in solitude. This is Schopenhauer's final revelation, and the most counterintuitive. Most people seek relationships to fill an inner void. They connect out of need, out of fear of loneliness, out of emotional dependence. And these relationships are inherently fragile because they are built on lack. But when you choose solitude, when you do the work of becoming complete within yourself, something extraordinary happens. You no longer need anyone. And it is precisely in this state of non-need that the deepest relationships become possible. You stop looking for someone to complete you and start looking for someone to complement you. The encounter between Schopenhauer and Goethe perfectly illustrates this principle. Both were solitary by choice, men who had cultivated a profound inner life. When they met, it was not a connection of need, but of mutual recognition. Two deep oceans recognizing each other, not two voids trying to fill themselves. Goethe said of Schopenhauer, "It is rare to find someone who thinks for themselves and thinks correctly." This is the essence of the connection between awakened people. It's not about entertainment or validation, but about the rare pleasure of finding someone who has also made the journey within themselves. How many of your relationships are based on need versus choice? Are you with people because you're afraid of being alone, or because you genuinely choose to be with them. The difference is abysmal. When you master solitude, when you become emotionally self-sufficient, your relationships change radically. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop making concessions that violate your values. You stop clinging to incompatible people out of fear of loneliness. And in that space of non-need, truly extraordinary relationships become possible. Never enter a relationship, romantic, friendship, partnership, from a place of emptiness. First, become whole on your own. Develop your inner fullness. And then, if you find someone who resonates with your frequency, someone who has also done the inner work, you can create something that transcends neediness and becomes a true connection. Schopenhauer did not offer us a comfortable philosophy. He offered us a true philosophy. And the truth is this: spiritual awakening is a solitary path because it is a path of individuation. You cannot awaken in a group. You cannot outsource your evolution. You need to make the journey alone. But in that chosen solitude, in that sacred space of self-discovery, you find something that society can never offer: authenticity, clarity, inner peace. You stop living according to external expectations and start living according to your inner truth. Awakened people choose solitude not because they hate humanity, but because they love truth more than they love the comfort of conformity. And in that courageous choice, they become more human, not less. If you feel the call of silence, if you value depth more than popularity, if you prefer quality over quantity, you are not alone in this choice. You are part of an ancient lineage of thinkers, philosophers, seekers who have chosen the same path. And Schopenhauer, from his silent tomb, whispers to us, solitude is the destiny of all great minds. But it is a destiny we freely choose, knowing that the price of consciousness is separation from the multitude, and that price is worth every moment of truth gained.